All right, here we go. Let's see who we're missing. Are we missing anyone?
Jaden.
Hey, are we all here? No. I saw Jaden, I thought this morning. Actually, but maybe not. Okay. All right, so here is our practice quiz. It is in 2 parts because it will be part no calculator and part calculator. And this time it will be 2 separate pages. So I ran it off. Now this is actually an old quiz that I gave. All right, here we go. We are going to do this first page without a calculator. Okay? Now, we're going to take our time with this because we have, there's a lot of stuff. And before we forge ahead, I want to make sure that we've got some of this basic stuff figured out. All right. So tell me about, remember I don't have a calculator, and I'm going to find the cosine of 193 pi divided by 6. What's all the way around?
360.
In degrees, it's 360. What is it in radians? 2 pi. So all the way around is 2 pi. Is that number bigger than 2 pi?
Yeah.
Yes. So this angle actually represents like spinning around and spinning around and spinning around. Would everybody agree with that? So I think I'm going to figure out how many spins that represents. So I'm going to take the 193 and divide it by 6. So in other words, this is an improper fraction. I'm going to make it a mixed number. So I got 32 1/6. Is my arithmetic okay? I made arithmetic mistake last period, so keep an eye on me. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 32 1/6 pi. Now you said that every revolution is 2 pi's. So tell me about the 32 part of this. That's 16 times around. So in terms of drawing a picture of this angle, does that have any impact at all? No. So what if I got rid of the extra 32 pi, that's 16 revolutions, and just looked at the 1/6 that's left?
Yes.
Because you're going to draw a picture of this angle. And if you want to draw an angle that goes like this, go ahead. But the part that matters is what's left after you've gone around and around, right? So we just figured out what was left. Is everybody on board? Tell me about pi over 6. Pi is 180, so isn't that 30? So we're finding the cosine of 30 degrees. So if that's 0 and that's 90, would you agree this is 30 right here?
Yep.
Let's make our butterfly bow tie triangle. tell me about the sides of this triangle. If that's a 30, then this is a 1, 2, root 3.
Yeah, looks right.
Looks right. It is right, thank you. Now, I want the cosine. What's the cosine in this picture right here? What's the cosine?
1.5.
No, no. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine is root 3 over 2. Remember, the opposite side is the one across from the angle. So 1 is opposite. Root 3 is adjacent. Okay, all right with that one?
That's the answer?
That's the answer right there, root 3 over 2.
Okay.
So all this stuff we did was to get to that, root 3 over 2. The next problem is almost exactly the same thing, only it's much easier, at least to start. Where is negative 270? If I'm gonna draw this angle, where am I gonna draw negative 270? Negative 270 goes this way? Wouldn't it be right here? Remember, every negative means you go down, and every quadrant is 90. So negative 90, negative 180, negative 270. Now, remember, every triangle you draw has to be one of these. There is no way you're going to draw one of those with that point. So what do we do when we can't draw the triangle? We look at the circle. And the circle we look at is the unit circle. In other words, the radius is 1. That point, if the radius is 1, that point would be what? XY. What would that point be? 0, 1. Sine on the circle, I know on the triangle it's opposite over hypotenuse. What is sine on the circle? Y over R. Very good, Robbie. Y over R. We're all supposed to have this memorized, by the way. Y over R. So Y over R is 1 over 1, which is 1. So the sine of negative 270 is positive 1. Everybody okay? Okay, so in that problem we talked about some stuff that's important. First of all, negative means we go this way. Second of all, if the angle ends up being on an axis, then you must use the circle. If the angle ends up jutting out here like this, then draw a triangle. But if you're on an axis, you have to draw the circle and use Y over R, X over R, those definitions. Okay? I'm going slow so you can ask if you got a question. All right, next, in which quadrant is tangent negative and cosine positive? So now we're just looking around our quadrants, remembering this is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you say bottom left or something like that, I'm taking points off. 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? Now we want tangent to be negative. Less than 0 means negative. We want tangent to be negative. And we want cosine to be positive. let's think about that for a second. Personally, I like to start with cosine, because cosine is x. And if x has to be positive, that's pretty obvious. Where is x positive? On the right. So I'm looking at here where x is positive and y is positive, or here where x is positive and y is negative. Would you agree with that? Not looking over here. Now, which of these two is going to have a negative tangent? Well, it's not going to be there because everything's positive in one, right? So what's the answer to the problem? Quadrant 4. Okay, did you follow the logic there? But couldn't do the problem unless I remember cosine is x. All right, 4 is our arc length picture. And it's a two-parter, so A says, find the angle if the radius is 18 and the arc length is 34. That's problem A. All right, who remembers anything about this? Katie?
Radius times radians equals arc length.
So arc length equals radius times radians. So what do I know? I know my arc length is 34. I know my radius is 18. And I am looking for my angle, right? That's what I'm looking for. That's simple. What am I going to do? Divide. So 34 over 18 is 17 over 9. And what's the unit on that? 17 over 9 what? Radians. There's your answer. Maybe you're okay?
No.
Hate to bore you.
It's been a really long 2 weeks.
You know, I know I get on this rant all the time, but these days that have 3 periods after lunch,
I cannot
Yeah.
get behind
we
that.
need to do something about that, because that is, the kids who have first lunch, oh my gosh,
Yeah, that
they
was
are
me.
so pissed by the end.
Brutal.
Yeah.
That was me.
All
I think
right,
it's pretty good.
Nick, you like it? Okay.
I
Okay,
don't want to complain, but.
so find the arc length if the radius is 6 and the angle is 5 pi over 7. So this is problem B. Okay, so here we go. Can I use Katie's formula? I sure can. Arc length equals radius times radians. So the answer to the problem is 30 pi over 7. And the unit on that would be centimeters. Does it make sense to you that if the radius is in centimeters, then this arc length will also be in centimeters? Yeah. So far? Okay. Change 160 degrees into radians. I think this was on your last quiz. Change 160 degrees into radians. Pi over 180 equals something over 160. Again, there's other ways to do this, but this is how I will do it every time. So I got 160 pi over 180. Did you get 8 pi over 9?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Find a negative coterminal angle for 6 pi over 5. So 6 pi over 5 I'm gonna find a negative coterminal angle. How do we find, just in general, coterminal angles?
Don't you subtract the rotation?
You add or subtract a revolution, right? Now, in radians, how much did you say a revolution was? You already told me. A revolution is 2 pi. If I add 2 pi to this, will it be negative? No. So to make it negative, I'm going to have to subtract 2 pi. And that's 2 pi over 1. So to do that subtraction, I'm going to need a common denominator. So 6 pi over 5 minus 10 pi over 5. So my negative coterminal angle is negative 4 pi over 5. Everybody good? Now, what if we'd been in degrees? What if this had been like 200 degrees? Then instead of subtracting 2 pi, I would have subtracted 360. What if we wanted a positive coterminal angle? I would have added instead of subtracted, right? Got it? Okay, next. Given this is the sign, and I am in quadrant 2, find these other things. So I've got a triangle in quadrant 2. It tells me that. Its sine is 5/13. So where do the 5 and the 13 go? Opposite is 5. Hypotenuse is 13. Yeah, we need the other side, don't we? Are we gonna need the other side to answer the question? So how do we find the other side?
What's it called? Yeah.
Pythagorean theorem. So a squared plus 5 squared is 13 squared. You can do this without a calculator.
Oh, this was easy.
A squared plus 25 equals 169. A squared equals 144, so A equals 12, but be careful, because of where it is, it's actually negative 12. Yeah, would've got you. Those signs get us every time. We have to really pay attention to the positives and negatives. All right? Abe, are you paying attention, my dear?
I am.
Okay. Secant. How do I find the secant? What is the secant? Secant is reciprocal of cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so this is going to be hypotenuse over adjacent. Did you say 13 over negative 12? Do you have some medical excuse for those pants? Is that why you're wearing
Yeah.
those pants? All right, tangent. What's the tangent in that picture? 5 over negative 12? That'd be negative. All right, on your quiz, that curve will not be a bonus. You will have to graph a sine, cosine, or tangent on your quiz tomorrow, and it won't be a bonus question. So I've got some papers to hand out. While I am doing that, will you make an attempt, you and your partner, and see if you can sketch this cosine while I hand out whatever I've got over here. Whenever we have class, our next class. So is that tomorrow? I don't think it's tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's Thursday.
I was I got all of part 2 wrong.
Could be.
I got all of these wrong.
Did I mark them all wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but probably because something here,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but yes, they're all wrong, so you have to make sure you get that figured out.
I will.
One of the reasons I'm turning these papers back is because I want you to spend time looking at them, making sure you figured out what you did wrong. If you made any mistakes in your homework,
Your numbers.
all right, how far did you get? Oh, that's not good. First of all, this is a cosine. I hope you started at the top of the hill, went down the hill, did the valley, and went back up the hill on the other side. I hope that's what your picture looked like, because that's what a cosine looks like. The standard period of the cosine. This number multiplies the amplitude, and the standard amplitude is 1. So times 2. Amplitude is 2. The normal labels, the curve ends at 2 pi, right? Once around the circle, the period is 2 pi. But for us, we have divided that by this number right here. That's a divider. That number divides the period. So your period is pi. And I can put a pi there because I'm starting at 0. If I were starting over here somewhere, I would have to add that to pi. My midpoint is going to be half a pi. That hopefully makes sense to you. Half of a half is a fourth. And if that's 1/4, 2/4, this is going to be 3/4. Did anybody get that sketched by yourself? You were paying somewhat attention, and thank you, eh? Now, the rest of you need to be able to do that tomorrow. Might be a sine, might be a tangent. Or whenever we take this quiz, our next class. We're gonna do this our next class. All right, now, get your calculator out. And you have 3 calculator problems. We're going to solve triangle ABC, and C is the 90-degree angle. In chapter 5, we'll branch out into non-right triangles, but right now all of our triangles are right. So, Katoa. So I don't care where A and B are, it's irrelevant, I'm just going to put them up there like that, A, B. C is the 90, it tells me in the problem. Now, little b means side B, and side B is across from angle B. So this is side B, and he's 6. This is side A, and he's 7. Big letters are angles, little letters are sides, and the sides are labeled opposite their angle. So wherever you put angle A, angle or side A is across from it. Now your job is to find every missing piece. So you're going to find this angle, you're going to find this angle, and you're going to find this side. That's what solving a triangle means, and that's why I have those blanks written right there. So angle A, angle B, side C. So Give me an idea. Pythagorean theorem? Absolutely, we've been doing it all day. Pythagorean theorem, 6 squared plus 7 squared is c squared. So 36 and 49. You've got a calculator, so if you need it, go ahead and use it. I think that's 85. So what's c? Root 85. Done. How are we gonna find an angle now? Clearly, this is not a 30, 60, 90 or something, right? Yeah, so we're gonna need a strategy here. What do you think? How are we gonna find an angle? SOHCAHTOA? How is SOHCAHTOA gonna help us?
To find side B, you do the sine of B, 6 over root 85.
All right, so Katie suggests that we say sine B equals 6 over root 85. First of all, would everybody agree with that? Now, that will work 100%, no arguments. My personal preference would be use tangent, because tangent would be 6 over 7, and I don't need to mess with the radical, but it doesn't matter, I have a calculator, okay? Now, how do I figure out B from that equation? What do I have to do on my calculator to get B?
Times B over divide, or divide by sine, my bad. No?
How do I find angles on my calculator?
Negative
Sine, negative, that, inverse sine, that's called inverse sine, or second sine. That's the button you use when you are trying to find an angle. Now, caution, see this angle right here? The unit on that was 90 degrees. Make sure your calculator is set in degrees. And then second sine 6 divided by the square root of 85 equals, did you get 40.60?
Yes.
Round to the nearest hundredth, so I'm gonna say 40.60. Could I do a similar thing for angle A?
Yeah.
But why, right? Because once I know this is 90 and this is 40.6, can't I find angle A by subtracting from 180? Don't the angles of a triangle add up to 180? So that's what I'm gonna do. And I get 49.40. Page.
If we were to use the tangent to find B, can you walk through that?
Second tangent 6/7. Because tangent B is 6 over 7, opposite over adjacent.
Okay, yeah.
And if I press second tangent 6/7, guess what happens?
Same thing.
40.6.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I do want to mention though, that, okay, so before I do that, are we okay with this? Did everybody follow all those steps?
C is 90 degrees, right?
Yes. Now, here's the deal, folks. Here's the deal. What if the given information looked like this? You will not start with the Pythagorean theorem. Would you agree with that? You're not going to start with the Pythagorean theorem because you don't have enough sides. You need 2 to do that. You do, however, have an angle. So here we would start by finding angle B, just subtracting from 180. This would be side B and this would be side C. We're across from the angles here. So this one would be, what is that, 43? Okay, that's easy, subtraction. How would we find either B or C then? What would we need to do to find side B or C? be SOHCAHTOA. So pick an angle. I might pick 43. Can I say something like tan 43 equals B over 10? Now, there are other things you could say, but is that one of them? Is that something? And then times by 10, and that would give me B, right? Or I could do something similar to find C using a different function, but I could do the same thing. So, the moral of the story is, SOHCAHTOA is in there somewhere. It's a right triangle, so you're going to use SOHCAHTOA to find something. All right, how far from the base of a tree is a worm if its angle elevation to a bird in the top of the 23-foot tall tree is 19 degrees? There's the tree, 23 feet tall. The angle of elevation is 19. Remember, this is where we put our angle of elevation or depression every time. Where's my X go? How far from the base of a tree is the worm? Isn't this X?
Yeah.
SOHCAHTOA, pick a function. What function are you gonna use? Tangent. Why are we using tangent? Because all we've got is opposite over adjacent. Hypotenuse is not involved in this problem. Multiply by x. Divide by tan 19. And there we go. 23 divided by tangent 19. I'm in degrees, which is how I need to be. I got 66.80 feet. Anybody agree with that? Someone? All right, tangent 37, 18, 32. Remember how to type it in? Tangent 37 second angle degrees, 18 second angle minutes, and 32 alpha plus. 0.7620. I know I didn't round to the nearest hundred, but did you get that? 0.7620?
Yeah.
All right, put that away. That's tomorrow's quiz. We just went through that painstakingly. Oh wait, we haven't done tangents yet. Your quiz is only gonna have a sine or a cosine. Tangents are today. So your quiz picture, your graph that you do, will either be a sine or a cosine graph. Tomorrow's quiz, you will graph a sine or a cosine. Because today, you gotta get these guys in. You gotta get tangent, cotangent, hopefully secant. All right, so here we go. The basic tangent picture is totally different than the sine and the cosine. Remember your sine and cosine wave, you're graphing one on your quiz tomorrow. The tangent has an asymptote and an asymptote and a squiggly line up through the origin. The reason that the tangent has asymptotes is that there are places around the circle where it is undefined. I'm in 4.5. Am I in the right place? Some of you are like staring at me blankly. Okay. When you are undefined, you have asymptotes. And think about the problems we did earlier when you had to find the tangent of 3 pi over 2. It was undefined, 1 over 0. These two labels are negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. This is the standard tangent picture. Now, we'll be putting numbers in like we did the other ones and moving things around, but the standard picture is right here. There is no amplitude, because amplitude means height. See that arrow? Goes forever, up and down. The period is the distance from asymptote to asymptote. How far is it from negative a half pi to positive a half pi? 1 pi. Now that's different than the sine and cosine. Their period is 2 pi. Now, there's good news and bad news about the cotangent. It's got similarities to the tangent, that's the good news. The bad news is everything is whoppers off. The asymptotes for the cotangent are at 0 and pi. So they're still pi apart. The period is still pi, but the asymptotes are shifted. And there's still a squiggly line, but the squiggly line goes down. It's not very squiggly. So the tangent is what we call an increasing function, but the cotangent is a decreasing function. No amplitude, period's pi, different. Okay? Man, I wasted way too much time. We're out of time, so that's all I've got. Next, we'll take the quiz. We'll have to get through it pretty quickly next time. Make sure you have studied, because